Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, that's. Yeah, we're ready. There we go. Okey doke. Hello, everyone. Yeah, welcome to our June 9th CPIC meeting. See if we have any folks from the public joining us. Not yet, but we'll welcome them. Just make a note who is here. Right, Pam will not be able to join us for this or the workshop. She's traveling.
One on the committee.
Say it again?
How many people that are here today that are on our committee? Just
We are-
Pam?
Just Pam. Yeah, we are 7 now. Yeah, shrinking as we go, but not as small as CPIC, which chugged along at 6 people for a long time.
You could make it 6 if you want.
You know, why did I?
To it, Andy.
I think we all could.
Yeah, that's, we could have a
And
mass
a little bit of a
exodus.
serious note, though, I'm getting sick of the emails that I'm getting at night that have pictures of me sitting up here in the CPIC meeting and TDI meeting and everything that's going around. And I know that you got one, Susan, at
Yeah.
least one, but
Yeah.
the select board gets them every night, and I'm just getting
Yeah.
sick of those
Yeah.
things.
From Dan
Who are
Flag.
they? Dan Flag. And now he's not even hiding under a different name. It's him sending them out. Oh my God. I mean,
Yeah.
the ones I got the other night were really kind of unrelated to this, so it was kind of scary, but
Yeah,
wow, makes you wonder.
not quite sure the motivation, there's no message, but there's it's a steady drumbeat. Yes,
So they're in the category of harassment.
I can forward.
that's what it feels like. Yeah, it's kind of mysterious, but yeah. All right, let's get down to business. Agenda review, anybody look at the agenda and have anything to add? It was long enough ago that I'm just gonna rely on it fully as we chug along here.
Feels like a different lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, and so admin items, we can always welcome anyone from the public as they show, if they have questions or comments. But let's go to the admin items, minutes of the May 12th meeting. Is that correct?
Was it me?
I often get dates very messed up. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Okay, any, they were circulated. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to make to those? All right, could we have sort of a show of hands that we all approve them? Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. And then our next workshop will be on Tuesday, the 17th, 4 to 5. we can talk about what would be, discussed there, but I mean. I often rely heavily on Sky's suggestions for these things. But, sort of going through, the changes that have been made and just making sure that we are all understanding the significance of those, feeling somewhat conversant in those. The thing that we're gonna focus on today, a little bit further on in the agenda, is the comments from the attorney and Sky's suggestions, so we can go through those one by one and kind of dispense with those. Those are kind of, in a sense, some of the more significant things in the edits that are gonna happen. And if anybody has actually delved into this version of Recode and has any ideas about what we should focus on for the workshop, I'm all ears. So, that's just to mark our calendar. So the select board is gonna meet on June 19th, to, I think, consider and I would assume approve a revised version of the board, commission, and committee policy. They took in all of the comments, ours included, in writing. I don't know if anybody came and gave comments on the night, but they were substantial enough that in a 3-2 vote, the select board did not go forward with that version of the policy. And there were, recommendations to consider all of the feedback.
I was there.
Were you? Okay.
I wouldn't say that they're gonna approve an amended one. I think they're gonna discuss an
This-
amended one. I don't
okay.
think I think they're still quite a ways apart, in my opinion, between the five.
Okay,
On the need, number one, and I think bits and pieces of it, one likes and bits and pieces another one. They don't happen to be the same bits and pieces. I wouldn't count on it being approved. It might.
yeah, yeah,
If it is, it certainly would be a watered down version, in my opinion.
yeah.
Andy, what are the, if you were to categorize the issues or the concerns, is there anything?
I'll tell the gentleman sitting in this seat here, Matt Nixon, I think, sits here, and his comment was, I think the chairs of the committees, that's their obligation to oversee the committees, and for us to oversee them to oversee doesn't really make a lot of sense. So some people were questioning the need
For such a policy.
for such a policy,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And others said, well, I can see, what was it? It was, they had like, if you miss 3, you can be kicked off the committee, but what if you're sick? And you miss 3, someone said, well, you can zoom in, and well, if you're sick
When you're
enough,
sick,
if you're sick enough, I mean.
in the hospital, I mean, come
Well,
on.
they
yeah.
just said sick, it
Yeah,
could be a cold at home where you
Sure.
could zoom.
Right.
But it could be hospital, obviously, someone to zoom in, but, so there was that kind of chatter going around, I just didn't see it being.
And I think you at this point are a very sensitive listener to the chatter, so
Well,
I
am,
appreciate your reporting back to
we're
us. Yeah,
TPI, we're not on them.
no, that's right.
But we're exempt from that.
Yeah.
So, which is frustrating to some local people too.
Yeah.
And hence the email guy.
Well, it seems like it's a solution in search of a problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it
Kind
seems
of a
like.
good way to
yeah.
put it.
Like
And
what is,
considering how difficult it is to get people to volunteer for committees oftentimes.
Yeah, that
You
too.
don't want to make it more
Yeah.
onerous.
so
I
we'll,
think it's just a certain few people complaining to the select board who thought that they should have something that we're now finding out probably don't need.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
and what we weighed in, I think, with some substantive comments but in addition to that, I can't help but remember the process that CPIC went through, you know, with the planning department in a former iteration of staff, with, you know, suggesting a policy around complete streets. And we went through two very substantial drafts. And it didn't happen, and it's like people are being injured, and one person was killed on 196, and the need perhaps for that seems to me a little bigger than the need for this. But so many of us have opinions, and I put them right out there. Okay, so I think it's just, I put that here so that if anybody wants to have that on their calendar, pay attention. And I think it's worth mentioning, it's not on the agenda, but it's worth mentioning that for any of us who went to the town meeting on the 28th, it was a record short and I think a quite well attended
Yes.
town meeting. I don't mean top,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Things have gone up and down over the years that I've been here in terms of the whatever during COVID.
I heard that there was a lot of people there just in case there was a small group to oppose the climate. And that's why there were a lot of people, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know that. That was just somebody's comment. I didn't get to go.
I think that's true.
I would only add into that, I don't know if it would be that like purposeful. I know that a lot of their marketing over May was, hey, come to town meeting and vote for this. So I think there was a lot of people there that wanted to vote for it. I don't know if it was necessarily a group to
Make sure.
oppose,
Yeah.
like, I get where you're coming from. I just wanted to note that. I think that they just did a lot of work. Yeah, and I get that, Annie, no worries. I just wanted to, I think that that's what it was, is they did a lot of work to try to get people out, you know, and get them excited and say, hey, come to town meeting and vote for it. Which is something you guys may be doing in a year. Less than a year, promise.
Oh, is that a real promise?
None of my promises are real.
Okay,
How do you
so
control?
let's, if there's nothing more to be said there, let's move on to our recode section, and we're way ahead of time. I like that. Now the attorney comments, I actually tried to, let's see if I can open those up again. Yeah, there they are. There they are. Okay, I wanted to be able to see them.
Do you want to share your screen so that it can be recorded, or
Oh, how do I do?
go to Zoom?
Go to Zoom and share. Wait, yeah, right here.
Yep.
These are the attorney's
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there they are. Okay, so that's now gonna be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. I'm just gonna make them a little bigger. Okay. So some of these, I think, you know, are of the more minor thing, typo or whatever, or just a correction of a number, need no discussion. And that very first one is of that type. But some of them, you know, are more substantive changes, and shall I turn this over to you, Sky?
Sure,
To kind
yeah.
of lead us through, because you've.
Scroll down just a little bit. I didn't
Yep.
intend for you guys really to discuss Article 1. Those are all basically update as written.
Yeah,
And then beyond that, I think if there was anything to be considered, they're really more like planning board consideration ones. So the ones
Yes.
within Article 2 were the ones for you guys to be
Right.
aware of.
right.
And I think the
So-
first one is the,
So looking at this one that is 2.40 2-2.
and this is something that Tom and I had clocked as well, actually, just that the building standards of Article 2 do not apply to accessory buildings. They have some of their own standards in Article 7, but they do not currently have to adhere to setbacks or other Article 2 standards unless that is specified. And I wanted you guys to just, you know, discuss that and either say, yeah, we're happy how it is. Or if you wanted to try to make any, you know, manageable tweaks to that, I guess is how
Yeah.
I would put it.
Do you, knowing what's in, I mean, I looked at Article 7, and the things that do regulate accessory buildings. Do you have a sense of what you would recommend to us?
I don't know if there's any recommendation here, well, none from the attorney for sure. This was just a, hey,
Yeah.
just so you know, this isn't applying here.
Right.
From me, I'm sorry, Susan, I didn't prepare for that question, which I should have, but you gotta send them to me in advance so I can research them.
I'm trying to think of a situation. We did, regulation for building, and then you put an accessory building within the setback areas and not conforming to the other requirements. How big can an accessory building be? I guess my question, I don't know, I have to back research that.
I have kind of the same question. Is there a landmine here that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
So looking through Article 7, we start with accessory dwelling units, which I would not suggest you get into since there's some state laws about those, and those are not usually crazy.
And then there's just where allowed are permitted by right on conforming or non-conforming lots occupied by no more than a single detached house containing a single dwelling unit.
Yeah, and that one's definitely state law related. So that's one accessory building. I don't think, my suggestion, we probably don't need to do, but that one I think potentially does not currently need to adhere to any of the standards in Article 2, so an ADU does not.
Right.
Which I believe state law would allow you to require it to those. I'm also seeing parking structures, drive-through facilities, fuel pumps, and solar energy systems, which are probably considered an accessory building, but that's a little bit of a gray area. These might be accessory structures too. It's a little hard sometimes to tell.
So what the attorney is suggesting is on page 2-3, there's that table 2-2, that would need to say applies to all principal buildings. Me-
No,
No.
sorry. He is referencing 2.4
Oh,
on page 2.2, not table 2.2.
oh,
And he's just noting that it says the regulations of this section apply to all principal buildings in the Topsham Center zones unless otherwise stated. So the point is that any accessory buildings are not held to these building standards. Things like sheds, we probably don't want to try to adhere those to,
right.
you know, our design standards, or else we'll have a ton of cute little village style sheds, which are non-conforming or something. There aren't a whole lot in 7, honestly. But I guess the setbacks is just the thing that should be noted. So like, if you look at table 2, accessory buildings do not have to adhere to any of those requirements.
This,
Is there any reason not
this
to
table.
leave it
Yeah.
as it is?
I don't really feel like I have a strong feeling on that, Joe, honestly. I think it's probably fine. I'm not seeing anything that's like, as you said, you know, a huge issue that we're not seeing.
If we were to say we want them to, I'd really need to spend some time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm comfortable with leaving it as.
Leave it as is.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I just wanted you guys to make that choice because you're the ones doing Article 2.
Or at least taking the lead on it.
I think the front end of Article 7 pretty well covers it.
Great.
Use it to code enforcement officer, identify that it is what the function of the accessory is. It's associated with the primary, and it does provide for setbacks in Article 7.
Right.
20 feet if it's a vehicle, so
Great.
I'm thinking if there is something, and it is in the back, it's not in the front.
Mhm.
So
Right.
there may be a reason it has to be close to the property line in order to get something, if it's a.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Build something. I think that.
All right. I think we have consensus for leave it alone. Good. Okay. So moving on to page 2-9. This is an easy one, I think.
I think it is.
Recommending take out the word dimensional. Out of dimensional allowances in section 2-60. Not dash, 2.60.6. So that these are allowances, but they're not dimensional allowances. That's all, I think that's the substantive.
Well, if they're dimensional, they can't be waived.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So the question is, do we want these to be waivable?
For up to 10%.
Up to 10, oh, okay.
Well, they can only be adjusted by up to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable with that,
Yeah,
not just leaving it waivable, but
mhm.
Right,
keeping it under a certain percentage.
right.
And there might be an engineering reason
Mhm.
for the 10%, so I'm thinking.
Yeah, I hadn't factored in the 10%.
Anybody have any?
My own question is that. Ripple effect, or is it just the title of the section that?
Just the title of the section. Yeah, it just is that since the word. Yeah, I think we just, well, it's actually only two things in there. So it's street wall dimensions and building height. Though that's a great point about. Yeah. Let's scroll down.
Yeah.
So throughout the section.
Actually, this one just needs to be rewritten in general because the height one has to be removed. We can talk about that one. Basically like 2.60.6 would probably just be rewritten to something that says like street walls can be, street walls can be waived, because then the height one is a bigger issue actually.
And is the suggestion that in A, that street wall, the dimensions is coming out as well? No.
I'm not sure. We
But
didn't
there-
talk about that one
yeah, But there
explicitly.
will be some rewriting.
Yeah, I think that would basically just be remove dimensions, dimensionality
And rewriting so that the 10% is,
possible.
is workable. All right, anything more on that?
So we're removing the dimensional?
Yep, and there's gonna be a little bit of rewriting there related to that removing of the dimensional. So then on the next page, we're looking at the thing about if building height, yes. Okay,
I mean, I love the idea of being able to have an additional story if the planning board approved or. Because I think height is what we ought to be looking at, with density allowances. And this is a dimensional allowance or a density allowance?
So we, the only way we can keep that is if it's the same way that like 2.80.45 is written, which allows for up to 4 stories allowed with structured parking within the building. So it gives, if you tangibly provide something, you can then tangibly get something else rather than having the planning board just do it. Unfortunately, the way it's written, it is not legal. And we do need to change it. If you guys want to discuss trying to conform it closer to 2.80.45, we can do that. He specifically brought up that section as that's okay. The way that one was written is fine. We also currently have that in our code right now. Underground parking does provide a height bonus.
Right.
So this is for the traditional storefront, which I'm seeing now. That should really probably be for all buildings, but honestly. Because that's how it is right now. Okay, so then the general building also allows that. The suburban storefront does not. And the row building does not. Workshop it doesn't fit for a lot of those actually, so that's fair. You know,
So it really. It makes sense to me to have that as a. Sort of a density bonus.
what is providing the bonus though is what you guys would need to decide.
Right.
What's he recommending? Do you use the format of 2.80?
Just the format. I mean, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
in favor.
Do you, so you're saying you want to use the same format of parking or? Cause that's already, cause I looked through, so you can get an extra height, an extra story for structured parking in the traditional storefront building. And the general building.
For the architect.
What?
So I would defer to the architect on that.
And you can't on the workshop row building. I don't think village building either. It's not noted for the civic building either. So but that one has pretty high height. The only other thing that I had at one point discussed with Leslie was the concept of adding a height bonus for covered parking in general, because the Topsham Fair Mall is an urban impaired stream.
Right.
And getting chloride out of it is the single best thing that can be done. Covered parking is a good way to do that because then you don't have to salt it.
Yeah.
She did not put that in. She kept just the structured language within. If that's something you guys wanted to discuss, you could potentially attach that to the suburban storefront or for all of them. But you do need like a bonus that then can be used.
Yeah. Some criteria that need to be met.
Yes.
Yeah. Well. I don't think that's. I sense that that's not something that we can actually. Weigh in on, but I think. You know, some kind of criteria that makes sense. For.
In other words, the concept
Is a good one.
is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, those roofs could also hold solar panels
Mhm.
yes,
potentially.
True.
Yeah, would be maximizing.
yeah.
So Andy's kind of suggesting that it's a good idea. And I think that's right. And the question is, what's the incentive that we'd like to allow? And I don't know if that's going back to Leslie.
So we're talking still about 2.80.45.
2.8.45 is good, the way it's written.
Okay.
It's just, that's how you would write in if you want to get, like, the flexibility inherent to 2.60.6B. Which I think everyone in CPIC is saying, we like that flexibility, we would like to maintain it if we can. You have to use the style that 2.80.45 uses, which is if you do this thing, you get this other thing. You can't just say you can get this if the planning board says it's okay.
I see, so there's a.
Yep. So CPIC wants that, is what I'm hearing. Do you want an extra story is
Are
what
we
you're,
united in that? Because if anybody has serious questions.
I think the point about density is, yeah, I have reservations about the potential for changing the scale of the townscape.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the part, one of the biggest impetuses for doing this code is to increase density.
Yeah,
And, Sky's point, I thought was a good one about runoff, so,
yeah.
yeah.
So whether covered parking is a possibility, and I guess the question would be, are there other types of things that we should try to offer as
I'd like to put Leslie's in.
yeah.
So the covered parking, just to clarify in the minutes, is allowed if some other criteria is met.
No, it's the other way
Oh.
around. There's an additional story in height
Uh-huh.
if other conditions are met, including things like
Mhm.
covered parking possibly.
Mm.
But I think having Leslie weigh in on that is a good
Okay,
thing.
I think I can get her to weigh in on that by your workshop, probably.
Cool.
I'll see,
Yeah,
but she's
yeah,
been
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
responsive, so.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's, we're all sort of ready.
I know you guys are actually doing work. I'm making you do work these days.
Yeah. Okay, so that one,
Were you gonna say something, Rick?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
284 is the bottom. How does that get captured in the general?
It's just to allow another, so the 2.60.6B, which says up to one additional story of building height may be approved for the site plan review process of chapter 175 if the planning board determines that the waiver criteria of 175.13 are met. That is not legally allowed to be in a zoning ordinance. But if you would like to keep that flexibility of allowing certain developments to have an extra story height, you would write it the way that 2.80.45 height, which says 2 to 3 stories is the maximum height, but up to 4 stories allowed with structured parking within the building. So if you create structured parking within the building, you can have 4 stories because oftentimes that structured parking is the ground floor. So if we were to say, okay, we want to allow an extra story of height everywhere on all buildings, which, sorry, I'm just going to make a quick note,
Right.
on all buildings.
Questions. I guess Leslie can figure it out and get it in there.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Because
right.
Now it becomes basically structured parking within the building or covered parking,
Mm-hmm.
and now that applies everywhere.
Yep. I mean, is that
Yeah.
something CPIC is comfortable with? Because this is Article 2. I want you guys to.
And so that is, it's in the commercial mixed use, mixed transitional and master plan development. It's not. Oh, yes, it is. It's in all of those.
So that's
So,
on
oh.
the traditional storefront building.
Yeah,
The extra height due to structured parking within the building is allowable on the traditional storefront building, the general building, and I actually think it was just those two. I do not believe that it was allowable on the village building,
or row building.
the row building, the suburban storefront, or the civic building,
Right,
or the workshop. It's not allowed on a lot of them.
yeah.
Potentially this should be, you know, kind of the focus of your next workshop is to go through these and maybe determine this. Because, and I'll try to get Leslie's input on this. I think that, as I said, Topsham Fair Mall is an urban impaired stream.
Yeah.
They've struggled to get things through covered parking, which can be like a canopy or solar covered parking, is a good way to limit chloride runoff. Maybe you could note that for the suburban storefront is that they allow them to go, but I don't know because I did not come up with these building types, so Leslie may not like that idea, so I will talk to her
Yeah.
about this.
Okay, and then we'll have another opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, I think I'll try to get some more information on this and then we can talk about it at your workshop.
Chloride reduction. Okay. So that takes care of page 3-10. Moving down, oh, there's another 2-10. 7, 8, no. Oh, large format spaces. Mm-mm. No, that's just, it's on E on page 2-10. It's just, it will only apply to C and D rather than.
Yes, because if it applied to B, it would be waiving height, which is not allowed.
So that's not something that needs our discussion. It's just the way it is. Okay, so. 2-15.
This is 2.80.46, which is just below the one I've been talking about a lot, which has the same issue. And I'm sorry, there is a typo in this. My notes say can be rewritten to follow the method in 2.80.46.
Yeah,
That should say 5. I do apologize.
So
That
thank
was my
you.
mistake.
great.
Um,
I'm looking for it 6 and it's.
yep,
not
nope,
there.
that's
Yeah.
that was on me. I
Yeah.
apologize, everyone. This is just another you can't allow an extra, you can't approve additional height without the like, you give me this, I give
Yeah.
you that,
So again, it's just clear.
which is has a complicated term and works out under zoning. Like you can get additional height if you provide an electric car charger or something like that.
So no need there for discussion.
Well,
Or is there?
do you want to just kind of roll that into everything you're doing at your next workshop?
Probably.
Okay.
Let's see. With a correction there, yeah. Okay. So I mean, those are the only things in Article 2.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you had any comments on Article 8, which is your other kind of article.
Right. Let's see.
No, you
A
didn't.
few more things for the, yep, that's it. Okay. So a few more things for the planning board too.
Mm-hmm. Most of these
Weigh
are
in on.
just, this needs to happen. The other thing I was hoping that you guys would discuss though is just to make sure that you have all read these chapters in this new draft and you're good with all of the changes that have happened. Those not just flagged by the attorney because he just flagged things that were still an issue that will need to be further fixed.
So when do you expect to be through this with our comments back to you? When would you like to have those?
Why don't we prepare to do that for the workshop?
I'm gonna miss the workshop, but I think it's a good thing that you do that.
Yeah, I do too.
I'll go through as much as I can on it back, but it's not that I can't read it all, it's just I wanna read it and digest, but it's.
Yeah,
That might take a little time on a few pages.
Yeah.
But again, I think I mentioned those developers that looked at it and went through all this and they
Yeah.
said they only had one question.
right, and it's the limitation on the square footage on the suburban storefront.
They just asked
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a chance to even look at it.
That's the best news I've heard.
Me too. I mean, I was surprised. They did a concept of a development.
It is just that our comments and sync up with what planning board reviews. They have a workshop this Thursday for on 13/15, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got questions on the planning board thing. I mean, how up to speed are they on this? Not at all, right?
That's what Thursday is for.
Yeah, they're starting the workshop process.
They're gonna be
Yeah.
6 months.
Oh,
with that.
oh, no. I mean, it's starting. There's a schedule that brings them through
Oh,
September.
you think it's gonna take for them to get through 6 months? I don't.
I have them at 3 right now. I have grouped the articles together for them to review so that they can hopefully do the same amount about each time. And trying to move them through this. I recognize that this in some ways should have happened a year ago, but unfortunately the code had to be reviewed by the attorney and
Yeah.
I didn't have the capacity at that time. I'm trying to move through it as quickly as possible at this point. I think Tom and I have found some really important things in here, as has the attorney. You're right that the planning board hasn't seen this in quite a while. They've had the code since you guys have had it. And they're getting memos by me, they're getting more than you guys do. That is, this is this article, this is what to know, these are the staff comments, these are the citizen comments, these are CPIC's comments on this section. This is what you should consider. So it is more tailored experience for them. They're doing the two really simple ones, honestly, early on, and they're not doing 15. 15 is just want them to read it. They're doing articles 1 and 13, which are pretty short, and they just lay out how it does. They've also technically done all of these articles 2 years ago, so nothing should be a super huge, should, of course, change for them. And then after that, at the end of June, they're doing zones, which is Articles 3, 4, 5, and 11. I currently have no comments from anyone on Article 3. I do have comments in Article 4. They'll need to discuss some things there. Article 5, very little has changed in there. That's just overlay zones, the language of the historic overlay zone, the aquifer protection, vernal pool, mobile home park. They haven't changed a whole lot. There's a little bit of changes in here, but not a whole lot. And then Article 11 is the floodplain management, which has not changed at all. So it's just for them to review it, look over it, and say, good, we can sign off on this one. In preparation for a final one a final draft, which hopefully everyone will see, and it won't take more than one meeting. This is the process I'm working through right now.
Yeah.
And I am happy to discuss it more if anyone has any comments.
It would be helpful to me to just sort of hear the flow of the articles. I think you kind of gave that to us once before, but it sounds like it's firmed up now.
They haven't seen it, so if they have issues with it, I might
It
need
might
to
be
change it,
changed. Yeah.
but I will show you guys what I have.
I'm wondering if I certainly would be, and I'm sure everybody in this room, if we can help you with the planning board at some point, would it help?
Would it help for us to be, yeah.
To
as
be
part of
there to
that?
help so it wouldn't be you against them or the book against them. It would be some real faces that have been through this for a couple of years and probably more.
And that's kind of where I was going with syncing up our feedback. I mean, if we could.
I'm gonna take you
for us to say, okay, look, we reviewed, here's the comments we have on any of the final draft, and we are in agreement with what's in here.
Maybe
We're familiar with it, so if questions come up during the workshop.
and I think it might be better after they've had a little taste, couple meetings or something. I don't know if there's some point, Sky, that you think in the process that might be good to bring us together.
Yeah,
Just keep it.
no, absolutely. I appreciate you guys.
Only if it helps. If you think it's gonna help, we'd love to do it.
I think it would. I was planning for you guys to be there for both July meetings. We can discuss that and move it around, since basically everyone is here. I think Susan and I had discussed it at one point.
Yeah.
Because this way, I thought they get introduced to the format that I'm going to bring them through on Thursday. They get kind of eased into it. They're shown how to use the iPads to navigate around. If they need physical copies, I will print them for them after that night. The June 24th one is zones. I think that these lay out how the new code is put together pretty well, and it gets them used to discussing some stuff because there is a few things they need to discuss in Article 4.
Is it the 24th or the 26th?
Is it the 26th?
think-
I think it's the 26th, isn't it?
Because sometimes I don't know if they
No,
change
it's definitely the Thursday.
Thursday, so that's the 26th.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep, I'm also not always
Yeah.
great with dates. They're always like around the same date.
Yep.
So if you've been doing it long enough, you
Yep.
just remember an old one.
Yep.
And so then, and I think Susan wasn't available in June at all, so we had pushed Articles 2 and 8, and I had kept them grouped together because I thought they might need to reference each other. We could also do Article 2 and then 2 and 8, depending on what makes sense. They're always on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. Yep, it is. It's my favorite way to spend my summer.
And you can go by Zoom,
Yeah.
right?
Filmable. Not filmable.
Yeah.
And then principal uses is gonna be a big discussion topic for them. They'll need to spend time on that. Accessory uses might be, I'm not sure. That one's a little hard. And then September, should be mostly just kind of cleaning some things up and getting through it. But I'm happy to discuss this with you guys.
So we're looking at July tenth and twenty-fourth, Articles 2 and 8.
Mhm.
Okay, and then
July,
July, yeah,
okay, but June 26th will be on zones.
Yes, so it's on Articles 3, 4, 5, and 11.
Okay.
I've just given them kind of little names because it was getting hard to say all the articles.
yeah,
Yeah, sure. And then, the July.
and July tenth and twenty-fourth, Articles 2 and 8. And then on August 14th and 28th,
Oops, sorry.
you were talking about accessory. Oh, that's-
14th is the principal uses, and then August 28th is accessory uses.
Okay, and principal uses is chapter, Article 6.
It's Article 6,
Yes.
which has the use table in it.
Yeah.
In all reality, I should probably not let any development go that meeting.
That's probably right.
I should make that note.
And that's something that I've been feeling we ought to look at with fine lens. No, it's not that we have any authority there, just to understand what's been proposed, because there's some significant consolidation, I think,
Mhm.
of use categories. So on the 14th of August, Article 6, and on the 28th of August, what are we looking at?
Accessory uses and
So that's
buildings.
7, Article 7.
Yep.
What was the first date again? Notice.
August 14th, yeah, and Article 6.
They
It'll
are
be
all
in
up
my
here
minute.
too, Jim. They're on the
Oh,
screens.
look at that, right on the screen. I just need to cut and paste that into my minute.
Is that, can that be shared
Yes.
with us? Yeah. Sky
It
will
is
put that.
proposed. They haven't seen
Yes,
it or
yes.
agreed to it yet.
Might be changed.
Yeah, please don't show it to them so they don't go
Right.
screaming before I have a chance to ease them into it. Um.
And then September 11th. we talking-
I don't know if you guys really need to be at those two later ones unless things have,
That gets into like Article 9, parking, mobility, and all
that's
that
true,
stuff.
if you guys want to be at that one. Don't know if you've been responsible for those changes or,
No, but yeah. Just,
because there are some in here.
yeah, there are some. So on September 11th. Conditional use in 12 and 14. Okay, and on the 25th. 9, 10, 15. And that is it.
That is it.
Now, the one thing that I sort of mentioned early on when we were beginning to discuss this flow is how, and I did it because I'm not familiar with the codes. I read the definitions before I did anything, and that's Article 15. To sort of, so that I wouldn't every couple of paragraphs be looking at the definitions. And that was actually helpful.
That is
I
on their memo to read for Thursday.
Got it. Oh,
They're not supposed to
early
make
on.
comments on
Yeah,
it
yeah,
because I figure they won't be able to effectively comment on it until they've done the entire code,
yeah.
really,
Yeah.
but that they should read it first.
Oh, got it, right.
So I listened to you there.
Oh, good.
Um,
All right.
I mean, is there an easy way to jump to, let's say, from, to Article 15, or do you just have?
I think if
to-
you search it, that's what Josh and I found. So if you type in like Article 15, I think it should come up. You might need article or else it'll fill up all of the.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know what we're doing on Thursday nights this summer.
Me too. I'm really hoping to try to avoid select board if I can
Yeah.
this summer. Was there something I was gonna say to you guys? So the planning board has seen all of these articles. They did go through all of them with Julie when she was here. Except for they didn't really go through articles 2 and 8. So my expectation was that, and tell me if you guys don't want to do this, was that on July 10th, when we start with that one, that you guys would potentially kind of reintroduce them to the concept of Article 2 and 8 and why CPIC is working on this. But if that's not what you guys want to do, we should discuss that now and I can figure something else out, which will just be me doing it probably.
I don't see why not. She said boldly. Makes sense, I think.
As long as you do the explaining.
Right. Uh,
And then back to your question, Rick, about when you should have your comments to me. Does CPIC as a body want to review these articles and then vote upon them? Or not vote upon them, sorry, discuss any issues you might have with them and then vote upon them as recommendations from you as a committee? Or do you want to have private individual comments on the chapter?
I think we have to have the discussion here as a
Yeah,
committee.
I think it
Either
should be a
committee or
committee.
workshop,
I think,
know?
yeah,
yeah.
because if that's the case, then I think either you would need to be ready to discuss them at your next workshop, which is next week, or we might need to discuss altering this schedule because otherwise you wouldn't have another meeting. I don't think, or would you? Would you be meeting the Monday before July 10th? No, you wouldn't be, I
No.
don't think. But yeah, I just want to address all of this while we're here and we're talking, so we know what your plans are and such.
Yeah, our meeting in July would be the 14th, and then the next day would be the third Tuesday, which is awkward, 2 nights in a row.
Do you guys want to discuss holding an earlier meeting in July?
That makes sense to me, actually.
Or not.
Poor Andy.
You only have like a few weeks of good weather here. Actually, July.
We're talking an hour,
telling you,
1
I can be
hour.
in here. Well,
I think that if you guys did, if you guys did an early July meeting, you could not have another one, probably, in July, since you'd be going to planning board meetings.
Right,
I think you would be fine with just one kind of combo meeting workshop to just get on the same page about any recommendations you guys would have for Articles 2 and 8 to the
Yeah.
planning board.
and does it have to be very far in advance of the 10th, or can it just be, can we do it on the 7th?
If you would like it in my memo, I send my memo the Friday before, but I think you guys could create your own thing to kind of present to them at that meeting if the 7th is the best night for you. I'm gonna need to check the town calendar and my calendar to see
The
when
only
I'm
awkward
available.
thing, I think, is that we have, on occasion, not very often, we've gone to the first Monday, and it,
Well, we have set the out card search, which, we discussed in Article 2 at their 24th workshop as well.
Mhm.
right, but we're not gonna be introducing it then. It has to be introduced up front. When you introduce it, it's gonna be at that. So for us to be prepared to do that. I mean, there's a lot that can be done
My
next Tuesday, but
I did
Yeah.
have that thought, Rick, as well. My concern is that if you guys do not have your comments and suggestions by the first one, they may make their own opinions and concerns that you would then need to kind of say, oh, but hey, we don't agree with these at a later date. As I said, I think we can discuss what works best for you guys right now. I'm not trying to say you have to do anything. If this is not how you want to do it, I don't mean to tell you that you have to do it or anything. And I know that this is moving quickly. I do understand that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We have made our comments for a year or more, or 2 years, so I don't see, I don't say that they haven't had, I don't have their comments back. You've got our comments, I don't, for a long time. Do you have our final tweak?
no.
Like, we're awful close.
Yeah, it's that this version has been changed regarding the attorney's comments from last fall. There's less flexibility as a result of that in here because of the legality requirements. I had thought CPIC would want to read through it and make sure that they agreed with this new version because it is a little different than what had been. If that feels like too much for you guys, or you feel like you've done it, I don't mean to push you.
I think that's it. And final comment. I mean, part of it is us listening to what the planning board has to
Yeah.
say, and like, okay.
Right, I mean, and
No, we've addressed it, we haven't addressed it, it's in there, it's not in there, and.
Well, do you feel there's anything in here that we haven't discussed? No, I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
No, I mean, do you guys feel like you have a good grasp on the changes that resulted from the attorney's comments? The removal of some flexibility?
Well, if it's a legal matter, it's almost, it's moot
It's a moot.
because
Yeah.
really, it seems like we have to comply with the law.
You do have to comply with the law, but the conversation that we had today about the height, so that one was brought up by the attorney because Leslie missed it and didn't take it out. There are other places where she did comply with his comments and took out flexibility that had been there. I do not have all of them highlighted. I am sorry.
Give me one. Well, maybe.
I'm sorry, Andy. I really don't know off the top of my head.
That's okay.
I know I have seen it in here. There's places where it's just missing. Maybe I have something in here actually that
That's
addresses
okay.
it.
I don't know that I'm That's it going through it.
I mean, it's been like a month and a half since I read this thing the first time. I do remember clocking it at the time. But if that's something that you guys need to discuss how you want to handle that is, all right. I do think that there have been some changes as a result of the attorney comments.
Well, yeah, and I think there were some, there was at least one workshop with the select board. Where I remember, the consultants offered some level of reassurance around flexibility. That later, because of state law, and it has been removed. So,
And mostly I will say that the response to the attorney's comments was to just remove
Yeah.
the sections. It was not to come up with any creative workarounds.
and one of the things that I think the attorney said was that. Sort of by creating, was it almost design standards? Yes, that there, some flexibility could be built in. By offering specific conditions to meet.
Specifically, the way the structured parking one is written
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah,
That's fine to say if you do this thing, then there's some other things because it sets out another zoning standard to meet. You can't just waive zoning standards, but you can create a different set to meet.
and I get that would involve more.
Oh, here it is.
Fine-tuned, creative work. Um. but I found that possibility kind of encouraging as a way to create some flexibility. I don't know.
I mean, as an incentive,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, if somebody wanted, say. A waiver, and there's no option of waiver, but they could get what they wanted by doing X, Y, and Z. That kind of sounded great.
A carrot instead of a
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I'm disappointed that for the most part, it was just removed. I don't know, like, what would have been needed for them to actually delve in, maybe more engagement with us as a committee. I don't know. But
We could also discuss moving the form-based code section to, after accessory uses, if you guys wanted more time to discuss this, or if you just feel good and you want to move forward, we can leave it where it is. It is a proposed schedule. It has not been finalized. The planning board has not seen it.
I think would be wise to wait, they say when they see it,
Okay, so you'd like them to review
as
it.
a schedule,
I mean, they could go any direction, they could say fine, or they could say, let's not take it up until October. I don't.
and I can't imagine that we are going to have a lot to say about these changes. But I think the point that I'm hearing is for us to have the time to look it over individually and come together and talk about it. We can do some of that on Tuesday, the 17th, right? And at least, like, maybe there can be some focus on, if not both articles, at least Article 2 and the changes that have been done there.
Yeah, that's the most important.
Yeah, you're not able to come, but you'll see if there are some things to comment on.
Try to get through it too. before
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah, is anybody else you
I'm
want?
gonna be traveling that day. gonna be real
Unlikely.
Tight, I may not be back in time for it.
Okay. So just in terms, and I know Pam is away
What time is the
4 to 5 on Tuesday, the 17th.
Tuesday, the 17th?
Yeah, third Tuesday. Yeah.
It's gonna be Zoom. It's Zoom.
Yeah,
capable, so I
Yeah,
could-
we'll be up in the conference room.
I have to be somewhere in Paul at 5, so if I get there early enough, say 4, I can watch a little bit of that. We'll see.
Okay, good, good. So, and the two of you guys? Okay, so and you're maybe,
Oh, I think so. I'm going
great.
away the following day, but I'm okay.
okay. So that looks good. Let's see if we're able to offer something on the 10th. Just the thought of having, like, if we're gonna be showing up at planning board meetings. Let's entertain the possibility, which Sky has suggested, of doing an earlier meeting in July. If that doesn't work, it doesn't work, but instead of. So instead of the 14th. Were you checking the schedule for the 7th, just to sort of see what's happening? I know that at
Apologies.
least one other committee.
Conservation is at 5:30, but you guys can be down here as long as you want.
Yeah.
You could also meet at 4 and go from 4 to 5:30 upstairs if you wanted a smaller room. Let me check the town calendar, but I'm almost positive you're sure.
And there's
You're
no
good.
problem with the owl and the Zoom.
This is the Don Russell owl. We also have 2 owls.
Okay,
Um,
because I remember
bike
one.
ped, oh, you're
to
right.
have 2
I
meetings.
would, yeah, we could also, cut it off for the last bit too. Okay, so let me just check July before I get to that. The 7th is Conservation Commission at 5:30. You could do that night. Wait, why are you guys listed on the 8th?
You
You shouldn't be.
No. Make any sense? We should be on the 15th, although we're gonna cancel that, I think. If we're gonna show up at all the planning board meetings, or some of us are.
It's from 9 AM
Won't
to
be around.
10 AM.
Weird.
I don't know what that is. She got a little weird with the meetings this year. I'm sorry, guys. Ah, yeah, we could do, if you guys really wanted to go to 6, we could do it, but you're right, we might need to end Zoom early as
Right.
a result, or I might need to, oh, no, sorry, you're completely good. Conservation Commission is canceling that meeting.
Oh, are they?
Yep.
Oh, so we could do a 4:30 to 6?
Yeah, you could.
Again, what date?
The 7th of July, so we just meet 1 week earlier, same time. I see people checking calendars, shrugging shoulders, I like that.
7th of July. Is this for a regular meeting or workshop?
It will be our regular meeting,
But probably
we
with a
could treat- we
workshop
could treat
heavy
it- Yeah, we
component.
could treat it as a workshop, other than approving the minutes.
Yeah, I would say come and approve your minutes very
We can
quickly,
Go into a
go into a
workshop.
workshop.
Yeah, and I think it would be great to do it upstairs,
What
so-
time?
4:30 to 6, the same as our usual,
Okay, so
yeah. Okay, hot dog,
14th is out.
right, 14th is out and 15th is out. Planning board is in. Okay. So. Where are we? That was exciting. Um.
Once again, your idea of excitement.
Well, we eliminated 2 meetings and shifted 1, so. Right, and we've gone through, next steps, planning board workshops, July, we're on board. I'm assuming we've had quite a few liaison check-ins last month. There's not a lot to say, I don't think.
Climate action plan passed.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the big energy committee one.
Right, which is terrific. when you gave the presentation, I think to the select board, that was a workshop on the
TD.
what, yeah, what are we calling that thing?
Water infrastructure.
The infrastructure report. Yeah.
Is that a regular meeting?
Mm-mm. It was a
Workshop?
special workshop.
It's a special.
Yeah.
Correct.
Was there, I guess I've gotten a couple of questions in terms of what is CPIC doing with regard to that report. And, you know, I would love to hear from you, Andy, if you have a sense of how it relates to what we should be thinking about.
Let me,
Because I know you've been immersed in it, and
yeah, I know.
yeah.
Remember, this is a study done by Wright Pierce, because they did one before of what does the town need for infrastructure improvements to do. Which is get everything done onto the west side with water tower over there, water tower here, sewer improvements, the whole thing total 30-something million. What's gonna happen is someone's gonna come in with a proposal. And they're gonna put it on the table, and they're gonna work with the water district or the sewer district, they're gonna come up with a different idea than was in that plan. And the key, I think, that the next steps for TDI, and I haven't gone over this with that board yet, and I plan to, is what is our role and what is the select board's feelings about development proposals in general that are gonna come over the next couple of years, because they're gonna need infrastructure improvements, almost, even if you just took the Crooker piece. It supposedly already has infrastructure, it doesn't have enough infrastructure. So what role is the town gonna play? Are they gonna allow TIFs? Are they gonna go get some grants? Are we gonna have some bonds? Or are we just totally against development as a current select board? I think we've got to have those hard discussions over the next few months, because things are gonna come in the sky's lap that are gonna go,
Yeah.
wow, that's big and that's a lot of money, and we need to give these people some answer. We need to give these people an answer on what our thoughts are moving forward in any development proposal, but we're gonna have some big ones.
Yeah.
You're aware that there are proposals coming.
Yeah, if they have, there's been meetings already, so.
I was at that workshop, and the biggest takeaway that I got from it, as far as overlap with CPIC, is that, you know, what's in RECO is being allowed to be built, and not necessarily be supported by the infrastructure
Right.
that's in place right now. So at some point,
How
it's
do you
gonna
go?
trigger that in order to build
The type of,
what's desired by a developer, the infrastructure needs to be upgraded
Yeah.
by somebody.
now we could put a single-story huge building on the Crooker property that you don't wanna see. Cause the infrastructure would allow that, but you wanna see, or not you, we wanna see a certain
Denser.
type of.
Yeah.
A denser, we wanna see walkability, we wanna see a certain type of
Mixed
building.
use,
To
yeah.
do that type of development, but the current infrastructure will not support it. So who's gonna pay for these increases? And we're looking for. Available fund, we're hiring somebody, or I think we're gonna hire somebody that's just gonna research where are. These things that we could even possibly
What could we
apply.
think about? Yeah.
And I know the town has, their views on TIFs, and I know developers feel that they can come in and change people's minds, and they might be able to, and I think it's probably gonna be something that's gonna be about halfway.
Was there a workshop on TIFs that same night or in,
That was months ago.
oh,
That was months ago, we had a workshop on TIFs, and that was something that Mark did.
yeah,
TDI, a couple of us from TDI were there, the assessor was there.
Justin, yeah.
Dustin was there, and he gave his views on TIFs, and we're all over the place on the value of TIFs and
Yeah.
the understanding of TIFs, to the point where, you know, one select board member, you know, I can't see, why would we give money back? Well, there's a lot of reasons you give money back,
but where's that right point to balance the needs of the
I
town
think the
with
TIF,
the,
and I think we said this, as you do what's called a TIF model.
Yeah.
And you don't allow a TIF unless it's a benefit to the town and a benefit to the developer.
Yeah.
You can model in that way, then the model has to show a percentage of a reduction over a
So
number of
many
years,
years.
and you've got to balance those things out. I mean, look at Highland Greens, that's still a TIF going on. Without TIF, that probably would never have happened. And they still have a lot of land left to develop too, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the long answer to the question.
well, yeah,
There's a lot of work left to do, and there's a
Right.
lot of, and my goal with TDI is we've got to sit down with the key players in the community, including the select board and the managers, and say, what direction do we want to go? Planning staff, what direction do we want to go?
Yeah.
CPIC's given us our order, but the comprehensive plan has given us a vision. And to meet that vision, we've got to find a road, got to be on the same road.
right.
Mm.
And even, whatever it is gonna be phased, right?
Of
And
course, but when you look at TDI, we've got almost 300 years of economic development experience, and you're looking at a select board. And it's gonna change next year, it's gonna change the year after that, and they're only there for 3 or 4 years, but they're elected officials who are supposed to speak for the residents, and so we, need to somehow find that road that we can all walk down together and get to where we want to go. So it's gonna be hard, but it can be done, it's done elsewhere. And the great thing is, we have an opportunity here.
Yeah.
A lot of towns don't, we're at the crossroads of Lewiston, Bath, Augusta, Portland, 196, the traffic counts on 196 are amazing. They're huge. They support a lot of different types, they support a motel, another gas station, housing developments, and
Kind of along, like the big takeaway from the workshop too, is just that. It's a time consuming process for the funds, the amount of work.
Yeah.
To develop that. Is. Can't wait until there's a proposed development in hand.
Right.
Say, okay, well, now it's
and some people there, they spoke up and said, we did this 20 years ago, and we're still waiting. We haven't done anything in 20 years,
So
so.
that's part of it, is where it ties, to your question, how does it tie into CPIC? Well, it's a long-term implementation plan, is one step on that. It's like, okay, well, if you're looking for growth, you're looking for a certain type of social, well, you start thinking about how to support that.
Right. Well, and I only went to 2 workshops in Build Maine, last week. And Andy, I think, was at both of those. And there's talking about the needs for towns to certainly to do a capital improvement plan, which we do, but a capital improvement plan is generally 5 years. And the real need is to look ahead much further than that. To think in terms of infrastructure needs, but also the life cycle of it, and to budget for that, and, yeah. Yeah, exactly. My feeling exactly.
Keep going.
Yeah, okay, so, I think we are adjourning at 5:42. And we will